In this lesson, we are going to look at simple interest. Now, in real life, if you borrow money from a bank or if you invest money in a bank or something else, you may not get simple interest. However, we need to introduce the concept of simple interest so that we can go to something which is more complex, the compound interest. So by the end of the lesson, you should know how to calculate simple interest given the original amount of money you borrow or invest, which is known as the principal, the interest rate, and the duration of the loan or investment. You should be able to calculate either the principal or the interest rate or the duration given the interest and other information. Now, let's have a look at a situation. You might be borrowing money from someone, or you might be investing your money in a bank, saving account, or whatever. Alright, so when you borrow money at the end of the duration of borrowing, you need to pay back some money. And generally, the repayment is more than the money borrowed. Same with investing money. The final value of the investment, if the investment is good, should always be greater than the initial investment. Now, in this case, we call the initial investment the principal. So, this is what I call the initial money or investment or initial loan. Alright, so the start plus the interest, which is whatever the bank charge you for a loan or whoever lends you the money charge for the loan, that equals the repayment or the final value. Repayment is generally used for loan, while final value is generally used for investing. Alright, let's have a look at how we calculate interest. Interest is the amount of money paid when one borrows money or invests. So the amount of interest paid is actually dependent on the principal, the initial amount of money which is borrowed, the rate at which the interest is charged, and generally is in terms of year, which is per annum. We usually write down percentage per annum, and this means per year, the time or the duration for which the money is borrowed. Alright, the final amount paid or the value of the investment, A, is actually the sum of the principal and the interest. Alright, this is important because we will tend to use this. Now, let's find out how to determine the interest. The formula is I equals to PRT, where I is actually the interest, usually in dollars, principal, the initial amount of money we borrowed or we invest, rate is percentage per annum, and time is duration, usually years. Alright, so now, knowing this general formula, which is the one that I think you should write it down, we could actually rearrange this formula to find the principal if you are given the interest rate and time. Similarly, we can also calculate the rate if you are given the principal and time and interest rate. And if we need to calculate the time, we can use the information given by the interest, principal, and rate. So these are all rearrangement of the original formula, I equals to PRT. So this is actually the most important one for you to know. Alright, let's do some example. How much interest would I have to pay if I borrow $3,000 for 8 years at a simple interest rate of 10% per annum? So now I will write down P equals to 3,000, R equals to 10% per annum, T is 8 years. Therefore, we know I equals to P R T equals to 3,000 times 10% times 8. That works out to be 2400. So answer the question. I have to pay $2,400 as the interest. Alright, so this is one of the way of answering the question. Clearly identify the P, the R, the T, and then knowing that you need to find the interest. Alright, sometimes I actually do draw a line or use highlighter to indicate this is P. Second example. This time you're asked to find the final repayment, which is A. Would I have to pay if I borrow $4,000 principal for 6 years, T, and interest rate of 6% per annum? We know that A is equals to principal plus interest. Let's write out this information. P equals to 4,000. R is 6% per annum. And T is 6 years. Therefore, I is actually equals to 4,000 times 6% times 6, which is $1,440. Now we know that A is P plus I, which is 4,000 plus 1,440, therefore is 5,440. So the final repayment is 5,440. Remember, always answer the question. So the next one, this question, we are looking at someone who has borrowed money from his parents to buy a motorbike. So this is, you know, the principal. And then this is the final amount that he paid by his parents. And T is 5. Now, we know that the interest rate is simple interest. So you need to know, calculate R. R is unknown. So let's write it down. A equals to $3,600. P is $3,000. T is 5 years. And we know that I is A minus P, therefore it's $600. So now using I equals to P R T, rearranging, R is actually the interest divided by principal times the time, which is 600 divided by principal, which is $3,000 times 5. Therefore, this is, you can use your calculator. Remember, in this case, it is fine to use your calculator. And using that is 0.04, which is 4%. So the interest rate is 4% per annum. Remember the word per annum. Alright? So the next one would be the final example. Example, you know that the interest paid on the loan was $2,000. That's I. Given that the simple interest rate is 5% R, and the money was borrowed over 10 years, T. So we need to find P. So let's write this down. I equals to 2,000. R is 5% per annum. And T is 10 years. Using I equals to P R T. So P is therefore I over R times T, which is 2,000 over 5%. And the term is 10 years. Using your calculator, we know that the interest, the principal is $4,000. Now, answer the question. The principal is $4,000. Alright, this actually is the end of the lesson. We have looked at how to calculate simple interest and using the formula